Somebody show me where on the pickle Rick Monday hurt you, because it's Modern Comic Mondays. This Monday is coming to a close, coming to an end. Finally, right? Finally. This is the Modern Comic Mondays Motor City Con recap episode. Stay tuned. Holy shit, is this a big one tonight? Because good gravy, do we have a lot to talk about? Like, there's so much content floating around that needs to be bundled up, nipped, tucked, put together, stitched, TikToked. I mean, you name it. There is so much content going on. I ended up buying an entire short box worth of books, and boy, you guys better stay buckled up for that. And we have two great guests on tonight. Absolute Retro Nerd, what is up? Come on, Mama in the house. Savannah W, X11 Bravo Comics. Everybody's tailgating, hanging out tonight. We're already a minute in, and we don't want to waste any more time. Let's introduce tonight's guests. We've got affectionately known as Dubba Low in the comic community. Brother, how are you? What is going on, man?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me. It's my first time being on live, and I'm super excited to talk to you.
Dude, I'm super excited, man, because there's a lot of firsts that we're going on this weekend. Speaking of firsts, it's already the first mistake of the show, right, Beth? Because I completely changed how we were going to do the intros right on the fly. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
I'm better now that you guys are here.
Excellent.
Question, Double O.
What
Do you know why the Norwegian Navy puts barcodes on the side of all of its battleships?
Oh, has to do with scan to scan the Navy in.
I must have told you that one this weekend. So when they return to port, they can Scandinavian.
Wow.
Yes. People are rolling in the chat tonight. Yes, the Absolute Retro Nerd, welcome. Good to see you here today. One Shot Comics, what's up, brother? Luke's Comics, how are you, man? Good to see everybody. Zuni with a little fist bump action on a Monday night. And come on, Mama, there she is. And Zuni saying hi to Beth. Now, I'm really excited. This is just going to be a free-form Monday night. Modern Comic Mondays all about Motor City Comic Con, because there's just no way to harness the last 3 or 4 days. There really hasn't been. And if you guys, Double O, if we start with you, man, what do you have? I know this was your first time experiencing Motor City from a certain angle, and I'm wondering if you could share that with us.
For sure. This was my first time as a vendor. I set up a booth and put out comics. I had slabs, I had toys, I had raw comics, I had action figures. My wife was with me, and she set up, she had charms that she makes out of resin, and we had our booth was packed full of stuff, all different kinds of stuff, and we didn't stop talking to people all weekend. I mean, it was awesome to talk to people. So many people that I'm now friends with on Instagram because of this show, and it was just amazing to just actually I would go to a show before as just a customer, but never connected with so many different people, and this was just an amazing experience and totally different. I can't wait to do it again.
Dude, I am woefully ashamed of not having that 20-30 second clip bumper ready tonight for the show for your booth. Your booth was expertly packed, man. There was not a single inch of underutilized space there. It was epic. Great viewability of a lot of the books there, and you brought a lot of variety. Actually, I was really, really pleased with the amount of variety that you brought, because sometimes some dealers kind of shoehorn themselves into one area or another, but you brought the variety to the game this weekend.
Thanks, man. My core, I love video games, so I always start there, and then I build from their video games, 80s, and I just try to start there, and then just kind of add on, and then superheroes and stuff just naturally comes after the video games and the cartoons.
I noticed that you had quite a few Nintendo books that weren't really quite visible at the rest of the con floor. And speaking of visibility, Ryan, Obi the Gray, what is up, man? Ryan was there for a little bit. Almost made it on the show tonight, but he was a little bit busy. Thanks for being here, though. And what we'll do is we'll kind of get into how the con played out for me eventually and my wife. But what I really want to do is move on over to Beth here and kind of talk about what it took for you guys to get there, because you had to call in reinforcements this year.
So yes, so as you saw, we had our friends Molly and Adam with us this week, and we usually offer it up to anyone in my D&D group. If they want to come, we try to make it worth their while. We try to offer them, free entry into a con, and we bring them with us, and support them all weekend, because they love to help out with this kind of stuff, and they are way more knowledgeable about some of these subjects than even I am. So it's nice to give them that treat, and in return, they definitely help us sell a record-breaking number of prints and things this weekend. So
okay, so let's pause there for a second, because let's give the people watching tonight and here live in the chat an idea of what it means to be a record breaking. If you had a bar here as an average, how much above that average would you say this convention was for you? Like,
I think we were 20% higher than our previous record weekend. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. 20 to 25% higher. And it just we didn't know what to expect at all after coming out of COVID. We've had maybe two big conventions before this weekend, but this is our third time at Motor City, our best Motor City, and just it was just phenomenal. It was just phenomenal.
I clearly feel like, and I'm sure Dubba Low will agree, that you are quickly becoming a staple at Motor City. I don't think there wasn't a time that I walked by or walked over there wasn't a crowd watching, or there wasn't 2 or 3 people deep in conversation with either you or your husband or Molly. And it was incredible to see. Just I at one point didn't think you were going to have the commission piece done in time for the weekend.
Sometimes it feels that way. We used to do 1 picture a day. We used to draw 1 new picture every day, and I would not have been able to do that this year. Definitely not. So we kind of love this idea of bringing the 1 and working on it all weekend. I can get way more detail. Be great. Thank you so much. And we would not have been able to do 3 pictures this year. Mm-mm.
It was nuts. And Sarah and I were a little late on Friday, and I'll get more into that as we can get through some comments and some more stories from you guys. But when we did get there, I think this is one of the first pictures that I got, and you were about 35-40% in.
Mm-hmm.
And this Venom piece is absolutely stunning. I've got a more detailed close-up picture here in a little bit, but people are figuring it out. People are learning, because when they get there and they see it in person.
And there's nothing else. There's so many artists there every year at every show you go to. But you walk by Beth's booth, there's nothing else like Beth's booth. Like, you go and she has a huge, huge display, and then she's doing art live, and other artists sketch, but like anybody can stand 10 feet away and watch her sketch. It's just amazing to watch. I got out of my booth maybe twice and was able to just look, and I couldn't even get close because there were so many people watching. It was just awesome.
Well, and luckily we were just in a spot where traffic was heavy enough to create that kind of atmosphere. And I mean, that's kind of our gimmick from the very beginning. I mean, our first convention, we had absolutely nothing to sell. It was just me on the ground. So, and I think people like that form of entertainment. It's a little bit different for anyone that's curious about art or is just getting into it. It's really fun to see the process. And I would say that I work at a fairly quick pace. So if I'm working, in like a 5-inch by 5-inch spot, it'll most likely be done within 5 to 10 minutes. So they can see the evolution of, in this case, a vein popping out on Venom's neck, or his hand, like a claw, something like that. So just to see it from a white piece of canvas to finished product is kind of fun. So that is one of the reasons that we're able to pull in a lot of people, I think.
So there's a couple of really good comments coming in that really want me to steer some conversation in one direction. But before we get there, Ryan Adams was saying it's good to hear some disposable income and investing in collectibles out there still. I think this convention, this Motor City Comic Con, really hit a budget point for people. And I'll say that a lot of vendors, a lot of exhibitors there that fell within a certain variation of pricing did phenomenal this weekend. Did really, really well. And that corner where you're at was combination restroom, combination ATM area, combination break area for other artists, combination where a lot of people started their convention for you. I only wish that there was one way that you could have, if they would have let you use like the very end cap so that all of the people sitting and eating food could watch you work at the same time and then be drawn over to that corner as well.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. And we try really hard not to go against. Artist Alley has a strict set of rules in terms of setup. So us even taking one table out of the line and moving it over and propping it up on like bed risers, we even kind of feel nervous enough about that. Just kind of moving things around. And we don't want to, I'm sure that Motor City has, I mean, they've been there for what, 30, this was our 33rd year, I think, to probably have this down to a science of what works and what doesn't. And we don't want to ruin that. And we don't want to get on anybody's bad side. So just even, you know, we need to take advantage of that space, but usually I'm on a corner so that people can see that. And I love that idea. We were at one point we were debating, we had a tiny pipe and drape on one side of us. We were like, should we hang prints off of one side of the pipe and drape? And we're like, no, let's just be good and do this the right way. So I have absolutely no complaints about the con this year. We absolutely loved it. It was such a good feeling. And yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll be asking for that spot again.
Which kind of leads me into the second portion of that. And Dubba Low, jump in and freely at any point. Disposable income and investing in collectibles. I think you guys saw it firsthand over there in that corner. ATMs ran out of cash both Saturday and Sunday. They got cleared out.
I talked to the guy. He was refilling it Sunday morning, and he said it was $100,000 out of all the ATMs by 3:00 on Saturday.
Wow. That is so people. I'm telling you, like people are worried about the collecting industry overall, and I think we'll see some ebbs and flows. We'll see some like certain areas of collecting kind of have some changes. We might see a little bit of adjustments, but I think overall, coming into where we are in this world, in this society, it's just getting better. You want to know why I feel that way? Because Motor City feels so important about that they're bringing back after I don't know how many years. I'll try to figure that out in a minute. They are going back to the 2 convention a year plan. So this past fall wasn't just because they delayed the first one. 15, 16 years ago, if I gather this correctly, based on some people that I talked on the floor, Motor City Comic Con regularly did 2 shows a year, one in spring and one in fall.
I did not know that.
As things slowed down, they went down to 1. They said that this past fall, the turnout was favorable enough that they felt like they should try going for 2 this year. And this spring show is my understanding record breaking. Why do I think it's record breaking? Because of this one picture. I'll pull this up. And just a little prelude to this. Every year, my wife and I have the exact same parking spot just outside of the Hyatt Hotel in like the back corner, which would be like the back of the Hyatt lot, which people like, oh, it's so woefully far away from the hotel. You know where we had to park when we got there on Saturday? It took us an hour to even get from the road into park number 1.
Oh
this is where we parked. That little gray square in the background is the hotel. That's like 3/4 of a mile away. We've never seen the parking so full on both sides of the facility that it was almost, I don't know, half a mile.
Shuttles for that.
Yeah. The shuttles were awesome. The shuttles were helpful, but this is so Motor City, the whole Motor City crew is obviously resting, sleeping. They packed up all night last night, all morning this morning probably, and it's taken them quite a bit of time to get that space back to where it was when they started. So the numbers, it's going to be a solid week before the numbers come out, but I feel like this Saturday was a record-breaking day for them. And while you guys converse back and forth for a second, I'm actually going to pull up a map and measure that.
Yeah, for sure. No.
So one thing I can tell you is that the Motor City show used to be in Dearborn before it was ever in Novi. And it was just a one time a year show. Then they started doing two shows in Dearborn. Then they started doing the May show. I think it was around the early 2000s that they started doing the show in Novi at the Expo Center. And they still did the fall show in Dearborn at the Civic Center, which is a tiny little place. And then it kept growing and growing to where there was two shows in Novi at the Expo Center. And then when they finally moved over to this new place, the Suburban Collection show place, is when I think they only had one. I'm not 100% sure, but that's when they started being just one show a year because it was so big.
Huh.
So they started doing it that way. But like Andy said, it's going to be, I think they announced the dates for fall. It's October. I don't want to say the wrong date.
I just got the email last night or something. It's in the teens. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
14. Yeah,
14th through the
cool.
16th.
Yeah. So it's a 3-day show in October. I thought it was only going to be 2. Wow.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Man, that would be fun to do.
Yeah.
I wish I lived a little bit closer. You're very lucky, like to be so close to such a good show, at least for this one. But yeah, that's awesome. We love Motor City. We went in 2018 and 2019, and we had never had a bad year at the show. Whatever they're doing, they know the secret sauce,
Yeah.
and
They've been
so
doing it
we
for a long
will.
time.
Yeah, and so we will. I mean, as long as we can afford to do it, we'll probably be coming back at least once a year. And it's fun because you get those repeat customers that there was one this weekend that it kind of made the weekend. It was a dad, his twin kids, and he's like, the Chalk Girl has become a household name. And I was like, no, you're kidding. And he's like, yeah, my daughter talks about it. Like she'll reference it every once in a while. And they were talking about, they were inquiring about Venom and what it would take to get that up in their house. And I was like, you're absolutely kidding. And they're like, no, we talk about Chalk Girl all the time. I was like, holy crow, I've only been here like 2 previous years. Like, so I hope that every vendor had that same kind of feeling this weekend. It was such a good weekend.
Well, you talk about like that kind of having the repeat customers. Mine wasn't a repeat customer, but so that comment that you just put up a minute ago, Andy, that Maham, that's my little sister. And she was there with me on Saturday, and she came to help me out. And she works during the week, but she was able to help. And we had in the morning this father and son that came looking at the different things, and the dad found one of the toys on my shelf was a Veritech fighter from Robotech, and it was still in the box, and I had it sitting on the shelf, and the dad was like talking to his son for, I don't know, a good 2-3 minutes, explaining to him what it was, what it did, what the show, like, he told the whole story of Robotech in about 3 minutes, telling him about it. He wanted to buy this toy. And then he's like, yeah, I'm going to think about it. I'll come back later. And they left. And then, I would say maybe 2-3 hours later, the son came back. And he's like, hey, you told my dad you'd give him this deal on this toy. And will you give me that same deal? I'm like, of course. He goes, okay, I'm buying it for him, but I'm not going to give it to him till his birthday. And my sister like teared up. She was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it! He's buying this toy for his dad. It's like the best thing ever." Like the dad was so nostalgic for this toy, and he was able to, yeah, exactly. She started crying, and it was so awesome. Like just like, and she like it made sense to me when she said that. Like it just was so nostalgic for him to be able to get that toy and something that he wanted for so long and never got. And his son bought it for him. He was going to surprise him with it. So just a
That's
little thing like that.
excellent. That's
So good.
excellent. Yay, Comic Cons.
Exactly.
I wish I had that video available of your booth because the toy presence at the con was very respectable. There were not as many as I'd seen in the past as far as like quantity, but there were quite a bit there, and boy, were people seeking out toy vendors. But let me just say this. First thing that caught my eye about your booth was not only the variety of comic books, but was the impeccable detail that your wife put into organizing the action figures on that board.
That was my sister actually that did that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
even better. So your sister here who's listening live,
Right.
the impeccable, they were so perfectly aligned in the bubbles and everything. That was, and you had, I think 2 or 3 of those boards floating around that you could move, 4 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, the big pegboards. Yeah, that was great. My wife did the charms, and she's actually that's Savannah in there. She's in the chat as well. Like you said about the toys. I sold more toys than I sold comic books at this show. It was ridiculous how many toys we sold. I could not believe it. I brought way more comics, but sold way more toys. It was just nuts. I had no idea what to expect when I came in, and next time I'm bringing a lot more toys.
Yeah, that was really interesting dynamic this weekend because when you go through, I was trying to get footage with the new gimbal because last year during Motor City, I didn't have a gimbal. And I made that. I spent like an entire week and a half on that show that edited content and uploaded it for Motor City Comic Con. I was like, this is gonna be so good. And I'm sitting there watching it in front of my TV in stunning 4K, and I see the bounce from walking, and I'm like, it had been so much pain from seeing that. I went out and got a gimbal right away. I tried it out this year. But the funny thing is, when you're taking convention footage, walking through a con, you find zones where there's not many people, and you're like, I don't want to record this. It's everybody's just kind of flushed and situated over here. I don't want the footage to look like the con's dead or anything like that. And then you know where all of those people were flocking to most of the time?
Probably Beth's booth.
Toys.
No.
Toys,
How nice
and
of
art.
you.
There was one end cap booth that had a big glass case U all the way around it that brought sideshow premium format stuff too. That place was getting a lot of attention.
I can't even imagine how much space they need to even bring that stuff with them. Like I had a van full of stuff, and it took me forever to like unpack and load. Imagine like bringing glass cases to the show. Oh my God, it's just I can't even.
Maybe it was plexiglass. I didn't get close.
But still, I mean, they were huge.
I'm afraid that if I get too close to a sideshow premium format figure, I might have to buy it. Like I just keep my distance.
Look at it from afar.
Some of these booths, though, they are an entire island for themselves, and just the amount of grid wall, the amount of boxes, especially those the mystery box groups, and how each box is like a foot by a foot by a foot. Like to pack all of that up, or some of the T-shirt vendors, even like I cannot. My husband Kyle is in connection with one of the guys that does the mystery boxes, and we were about to get off the highway to head back home, and he texted us that they were done packing up at 9:48 last night. Like it just no, absolutely not.
Oh.
Yeah, holy crow.
Oh man,
was that 9:48 your time? Like it's an hour behind, right? Or no?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, so it was 10:48 because they were still there when I left. I think I left at 10 from the actual convention center, and they were still there. I mean, I didn't know when they were going to get done. I thought they were going to get until tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't even know if the con is open, like to let them do tear down tomorrow. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I never stay late enough.
Right, I've never been there that late.
That's a great question. I don't know what happens after a con, besides breaking down and leaving. And if you don't get it done in time, what happens?
Mm-hmm.
One thing I tell you, the guys picking up the tables and the chairs, they want their tables and chairs by a certain time because they will take your stuff and put it on the ground and take those tables and chairs right out of the way. So you have to be done quick enough. You can't stay too late for that.
Oh my!
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that. I thought all the tables and chairs were brought in by each individual vendor.
No, the con provides a table and 2 chairs for every table or booth that you have.
Except for the really expensive cons. There's a reason we don't really do C2E2, and it's because the booth fee is very large on top of the fact that you are provided with absolutely nothing. So you have to either pay for or bring all your own tables if you're going to do C2E2.
Wow.
Ooh, and that's union labor out there too, I think.
Yes. So if you have a vehicle to bring in things, whether it is a hand cart or a dolly or whatever, if it has more than 2 wheels, it has to be rolled in by a union member. You cannot do it yourself.
Yeah, Chicago's like that. San Diego, we had to put everything. If we unloaded our own van, you put it on a pallet, and then they would pick your pallet to your table. You are not allowed to wheel anything in.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a convention rule. Convention center rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank God it's not like that here.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Interesting.
We were able to drive right up on Thursday.
Yeah.
Interesting. Like right onto the con floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
nice.
Convenient.
It is nice when
Super
that happens.
Nice. Yeah.
I will say this: there's one thing that Motor City does hands down better than any convention I've ever been to, and that is aisle size, aisle space. There is always a tremendous amount of space for people to get around in. And that's why I think a lot of times people are like, well, the con wasn't that busy. We didn't have trouble getting through there. I'm like, nay, sir, or good lady, because the aisle space is almost double that of what you get at Baltimore. Or Baltimore's a really big comic book convention on the East Coast. And some of the other ones I've been to, the aisle sizes are almost half of what Motor City provides. And Motor City provides 3 times the amount of tables and chairs for people to just sit and relax, too. At least in my experience. My con experience is still relatively small.
That's surprising.
I think it was roughly 5 years ago that they increased it. And it was a big deal for them to have the more space. I'm talking about the aisle space. They used to be a lot smaller, and then they decided people weren't able to get through the aisles. And they changed it to having much bigger aisles just because, like you said, so people could get through.
Yeah, was that when they moved to that Novi suburban show place 5 years ago?
I think so. Well, the first year it wasn't like that, but then every subsequent year they made it. They took up more of the hall, like the whole registration area where you come and get your wristband and all that was moved all over to one side instead of being in the front of the hall, which allowed to have more space in the hall to spread out all the dealer tables and such.
And you mentioned where they were at before being at the Novi suburban show place. Do you remember what that location was?
Yeah, the Novi Expo Center. It's right off of I-96 and Novi, where that water tower is.
Okay.
On Novi Road and corner of Novi Road and 96. It was right there. It says Adele on it now, not the singer, but similar.
That's where it always gets confusing for me, is because we've been going this Motor City Con for Sarah and I has always been our anniversary weekend getaway. Go the day before, stay a day after, get a hotel for 3 or 4 nights. And it's been fantastic, but I can never remember beyond them moving to the Novi suburban show place. Beyond that, I can never really remember it. It's because it feels like it became a different convention to me.
Yeah, much bigger, much different scale. I mean, when they first moved to Novi, it was a big deal, but once they moved to this new place, it was a whole different experience because it's so much bigger and so much more room to spread out.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't even know what happens at the Expo Center anymore, even if it is an Expo Center. They might be doing something else there. I'm not sure, but this is a whole, like you say, it's a whole different kind of show.
I can imagine that they've got some room to grow, and I think that might be part of their plan over time, is to kind of grow into that space a little bit more. Because I still feel like there's that cutoff from vendors until you get to like celebrity guests. I feel like there's a lot of unrealized, underutilized space over in there, and I think that's just kind of how they have it mapped and planned to fit for now until they start growing a little bit more.
That used to be so they flip-flopped the entire floor, and that used to be where the green room was.
Yeah, and the Artist Alley was down by where they were selling pizza.
Yeah.
There this past weekend, and that's what was really confusing too, is when they flip-flopped that. But I think it's more feng shui, I guess, now.
I don't know, but like, again, we were in a literal corner and I could not have been happier. So however they do it, I think that the general population that comes to Motor City, like, they just know how to respect every single part of the con. Like, they look through every single Artist Alley booth. And not only that, but we had so many people that flipped through our entire book, our entire catalog. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes they see a couple prints on the wall and they just kind of go. But like, we had so many people that flipped through the entire thing to look at it. Like, I feel like this community knows art, comics, collectibles, celebrities. Like, they appreciate it all. So yeah, it's a good one. You're muted.
You're muted, Andy.
Sit here and wag my finger at the screen for some weird reason. I think there's one key thing that a lot of people may have missed and didn't pick up on, is that all of those massive prints behind you were for sale.
And we need to do that better. So our vertical display is super flimsy. It's an older photo backdrop display, and I was so close to getting a new one before this con, and I wish I had, because it's just not sturdy. It was like falling over as we were putting it up. So I do need to get a new one, and I do need to put like prices on them so that they know for sale. But
well, yeah, there was definitely prices on those pieces, but I don't know that people really connected that price with the fact that the piece itself was for sale. Generally, I was kind of like, that's really affordable. I should take that home with me while she's here right now. I kind of think that some people will see that, but they don't really kind of put two and two together and realize that that's for that piece. We're talking a 4 foot by 3 foot couple of them. There were like 3 or 4 of them that were like almost 6 feet tall.
The Joker that you saw was 4 feet by 6 feet, and somebody did end up buying that. We sold 2 of those this weekend. That never happens.
Wow.
That never happens. We sold that one and a Master Chief, and so it made the weekend. We sold that, and then the other ones that we have are door banners. So they're 2 feet by 6 feet. They fit perfectly on the back of a door, and so that was the Batman that we had up there. And yeah, we try. I mean, you think you can go through your pricing and your signage until it makes you sick, but there's always going to be somebody. You have to make it. I hate using this term, but like it has to be idiot proof. Like you gotta read it and reread it and hope that it sticks and that people understand how it works. But yes, we'll have some of those big signs right on top of them, but then we don't have any prices on all of our other prints that are on display. We just have them up there. So we need to figure that out too.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Oh yeah. And this con definitely highlights some things that you guys want to do at some point. And speaking of highlighting things, let's hit this chat real quick before we segue into some more areas. Because once again, J Hood Creative stopped in here, and I was really sad to see that he had not made it. I was looking for him this weekend. I know he was pretty busy. It's one of the best shows within driving distance for him. And speaking of that, Warlord was there on Saturday, and I never found him. I saw one guy out of the corner of my eye, and from a distance, I was like, it could be, but I don't want to bother him because he's eating right now. So maybe I'll try to find this person again. So Warlord, sorry, man, I didn't run into you Saturday. It was crazy busy for a lot of us. And then who else was, oh man, Peter Parker's Pants. I'm so sad I didn't see Peter over there this Saturday as well. Oh, he went Friday only, and it was really great con this year, great deals. This was probably one of the better performing Fridays I've seen at a Motor City Comic Con for not only the vendors, but for the buyers. There were a lot of great deals. And I'm really, Beth, we've got you from the artist/vendor aspect, but there's another aspect of the convention that we hadn't had a chance to talk about, and we don't have anybody representing it just yet. But there's, I believe that the Artist Alley is really kind of morphing and merging into some specialty areas, and I feel like the traditional artists, i.e. Andy Bennett, who has the standard booth and will sit and do sketches and put like real comic book art out, like pages if he's done pages and some of his own books. That seems like there's that, but then it seems like there's an avenue of like you and your husband, Beth, that are doing different mediums, much different mediums now. And then you see the prints, the holographic prints, and some of the other stuff. But one of the first areas that Sarah and I will always gravitate to is that traditional artist booth. And Andy is our first stop every year for Motor City. And I don't have a picture of thank you to Seawater 19 if he's in here watching or he catches us on the replay. Carson, years ago, a friend of mine here through the Comic Corner on YouTube, pushed me and egged me on. And she's like, Andy, just get a sketchbook. It's a cheap $35 investment. You don't have to put a lot of money into it. Just buy a quality sketchbook, pull some artists in your area at conventions and see what they like working with. And we did, and we bought a book. And every year at Motor City, Andy's the first person we go to. And this year we had him do a Dr. Aphra sketch for us.
Heck
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome.
That's beautiful. I was wondering who that was from. That's awesome.
It's Andy Bennett, and I want to say that the kind of traditional artists that do sketchbooks and sketch covers and things of that nature at a convention, this is like the third dimension of convention experience that we had never experienced before last year. Last year was our first year doing this. Is only like our 6th or 7th sketch in there. And we had to go with Andy's take on an Aphra because the book opens up with Andy's take on Ahsoka Tano. So he had never done Ahsoka Tano before, and he had never done I just said her name, Dr. Aphra, before either. So there were 2 firsts from him in that book. And it's just a really cool experience because you can kind of let them ebb and flow with, it's like, literally, this is what character that I'm really interested in right now. Are you? And Andy's like, yeah, let me give this a shot. It's like, done. See you later. Like half a day or day and a half later.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for you. That's excellent.
Yeah,
That's
she looks
so
great.
cool.
It's like a steampunk style almost.
Uh-huh.
Love that.
Looks really cool.
Well, and that helps me to see more and more imagery of Comic Man Andy here has been spitting the name Dr. Aphra at me for the last couple of months, and I have no idea who that character is. So to see yet another rendition is absolutely wonderful. So that's
trust me, we're gonna take you to Star Wars school the next few months here because there is so much great stuff to learn. And like we talked about in the past, if you have a local library and can get a library card, you can get on Hoopla. You can read the majority of these Star Wars reads for free digitally on Hoopla. So anywhere on your iPad, anywhere on your laptop, it's really good stuff. I think it's right up your alley for character research as you grow and branch out as an artist.
That pose that he did is really cool. And just chilling with the gun. And are those like the circuitry on her arm? Is that part of her?
Yep, that's part of her. So if I remember correctly, she's what they kind of call augmented in Star Wars, and the original trilogy didn't go deeply into that, but Book of Boba Fett did go a little bit more into that when they are on I haven't seen it in
Tatooine, right?
Tatooine, when they go and they see a lot of the biker teenagers and they're in that like augmentation parlor, that's actually a really big thing in Star Wars. Like Darth Vader, severely augmented character, not severely, but heavily augmented. And Dr. Aphra has some augmentations out there to kind of enhance her performance, so to speak, as awkward as that might sound.
Luke Skywalker's hand.
Yep. And they're just gonna it's gonna be really cool where they take this in the future. They get deeper into the Star Wars lore and universe. I'm kind of excited about that.
Just kind of
a little.
I think 95% of the books that I purchased this weekend at Motor City were all Star Wars books.
Yeah.
Wow.
We need to do another Star Wars.
Yes. We were originally going to do one like last week or the week before. Schedules didn't quite line up. And Star Wars Celebration Week, I think you guys are actually busy at the end of this month too. So we're going to look for something next month or the month after, in a few months, maybe in the next quarter. We'll figure something out because I think you have exactly what it takes to do a really cool spin on Dr. Aphra. And I know Dubba Low would agree with me.
I agree 100%.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate that wholeheartedly.
Speaking of taking spins on things and looking at your artwork, this is a great segue. Dubba Low, hop in at any point when I start yammering for too long. We got to spend a little bit more time this weekend with Source Point Press and Garrett Gunn right there, the man, the myth, the legend from Good Boy and from Warhorns. I'm not even pronounce it correctly. Actually took that 9.9, that CGC 9.9, and it is foiled and handed it to me. And he's like, you know what? On behalf of him and Source Point, they've donated this to Mission 22. So what that means is they put it in care of old Comic Man Andy here, and we are going to auction this off on the auction block and donate the proceeds to Mission 22. And it's a 9.9.
Wow. So cool.
Wow.
9.9. Garrett Gunn story, Kit Wallace art, and Ryan Kincaid cover. And it is foiled out beyond belief. It's not going to show up well on here. Yeah, the camera's not going to do it justice. But it came back at 9.9, and he had it on there, and I'm looking at it, I was like, that's pretty awesome, man. How many of those, did they really come across? He's like, God, not many. And he's like, pauses for a second, and he grabs it. He's like, here, I want you to take this with you. And I'm like, wait, what? And then we started talking, and Garrett Gunn is a super cool individual that I'm looking forward to talking more with in time, because I feel like there's an opportunity here to have Beth do an exclusive variant at some point.
You guys don't understand. Every time, okay, so we kind of became a little bit of a base camp for Andy and his wife during the show, and every single time he came back, it was, hey, Beth, we're going to try to get you to meet this person. Hey, Beth, I think you can work on this project with me. Hey, Beth, I have this free thing for you. And he just kept like gifting us with stuff all over the weekend. And it was outrageous. You're absolutely insane, but I can't appreciate it enough. So yeah, may this connection and networking thing keep going on for as long as we can make that happen. But like, holy cow, that foil looks awesome. That is really cool.
I can't wait to actually put that on the auction block for Mission 22. That's going to be a ton of fun because I love seeing where those things end up going.
Yeah.
And speaking of Mission 22 and Source Point Press, Saturday we actually had an opportunity to meet Christina, the co-author for Good Boy, and got to hang out with her she had a super busy schedule on Saturday. We got to hang out with her for about 10 or 15 minutes in between a break. So it was great to see her and look forward to seeing more work from them in time and being able to see them and hang out with them more at conventions. I see a ton more people bumping into the chat. Mark, what's up, man? Good to see you. Sarah, yeah, we haven't even got into the cosplay side of things just yet. We're 40 minutes in and we're not even halfway through all the segues. Peter got a Howard Shaken sketch. Yeah. So there was a Mihu Sozoka, and I killed the names. She was there. Really cool artist. There were a ton of really good artists there that we didn't get a chance to record or interview yet. It was just so busy. Where else are we at in here? The Comic Vet, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Thanks for being here. Ryan, yes, 9.9 foil from Source Point Press. Really good stuff. And Andy the King Queen Maker. What? Andy the King Queen Maker. Either way.
I mean,
yeah, so this was the first weekend ever that Sarah had decided to cosplay. Like, she had thought about it. I think really what it was this past fall during Motor City Comic Con earlier in October last year is she saw a couple of Ahsokas hanging out and around, and she saw a really young girl go up to her, like obviously looking at her, like seeing a hero, wanting to take pictures. And Sarah's like, I think I want to try that. And she had an absolute blast because we got her suited up for Saturday. After that, from where we took that picture to the entry door to the convention, it's about a half a mile. So I actually measured that while we were talking. It's about a half a mile. We had her all suited up, and then we walked her back near the 501st area and kind of dropped her off, and there she is on the left, and she found another Ahsoka, and then another Ahsoka, and then they all started hanging out. I'm like, all right, peace. See ya.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go do my thing too.
That is so cool. She did so good. So good. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah,
everything from like her construction, and you said that she doesn't sew that much. Like, she did a fabulous job. Fabulous.
She really did, and she actually handmade everything minus the undershirt and I think the under leggings. I think she purchased, but everything else was handmade by her. So
it's such a great job. I mean, the detail that she put into it, I can't imagine how long it took for her to do that.
So yeah, did she clock it? Yeah,
about a month every night after work and after our son went to bed. It was about a month it took her to make that. And then in this picture, the gentleman in the Mandalorian cosplay to her right is Sam DeLorean, who actually went on to take second place in the cosplay convention, the cosplay contest at the convention center there.
Wow.
Holy cow.
That was second place?
That was second place, yeah.
Wow.
I can't imagine who took first place. I got to look it up online.
Wow.
That's so cool. Good for them. That's amazing.
I know
So
at the end, here were a couple of other Ahsokas that she had been hanging out with for most of that afternoon. And the best part was, as soon as they got together, they started sharing tips and tricks and trades on where they got this and where they got that and what pattern was this and what pattern then that was that. And it's really cool because I think she's going to do it more often going forward at other conventions. I know she's planning on cosplaying at least one day at C2E2 this year.
Good. And make sure she's comfy, because that is a long day. Like, I feel like this Motor City is a long day, but it's manageable. C2E2 is just crazy. It's just crazy.
The difference with C2E2 though is we'll be at the hotel that's connected to the convention floor.
Good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Excellent.
That's the one thing I kind of wish we had an opportunity to do with Motor City every year is I wish we could stay at that Hyatt that's attached to the convention floor, but they utilize that for all of their guests. They rent it out for all their, which makes complete sense when you look at all of that, how that works. And there are plenty of hotels in that area within a 5-10 minute drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing that for a while. It used to be the DoubleTree across the way from the Expo Center, and then this time, once they moved to this new place, there was no chance of anybody else getting a room because it makes sense to have it for the guests.
Yeah. All of the celebrity guests, I would imagine if they're staying there and they want to keep that quiet. And my understanding is basically anybody that's invited. I don't know the finer workings, but if you get invited to work at the convention or show at the convention, that's probably what's happening there.
Right.
Man, where do we segue next after all of that? Like, guys talked a little bit about how strong Friday and Saturday were performing for you guys. I will say that I have not seen a cooler, more badass Last of Us tattoo piece anywhere else than your wife, Dubba Low,
Oh my
who
gosh.
is a massive Last of Us fan along with you.
She is the fan. She introduced me to Last of Us, and I had no idea I mean, I had heard of it, but didn't really play it. She would, when I first met her, that was the first thing she talked about. Plays it. She plays it. She used to play it online, the factions mode, and she got those tattoos like over the past several years, and she has 3 pieces, and they're huge on her leg, and she's planning for the next. There's 2 more that she wants to do, and she goes to the same artist, and he's in Florida, so she flies down to Florida, goes
Wow.
to the artist, gets the piece done, and then recovers for like a few days after, like a week after, where she doesn't walk around too much. But yeah,
I
she's
need to start
huge.
playing. Yeah, I've heard so many good things about that, and I always figure out some way to bring this in, but Critical Role is that online. Yeah, I only know about it because of Ashley Johnson
Hmm.
and Laura Bailey, and and their voices, and everybody's saying that because I've never played, and so everybody's watching The Legend of Vox Machina that just came out on Amazon Prime, and they're like, all I hear is Ellie whenever Pike talks.
Right.
And so I was like, I gotta play. I gotta figure out what
It
is.
is
I have
her
the soundtrack. Yeah.
the Gustavo, such
So
a good
good.
soundtrack, so good.
So good.
Savannah's goal is to meet Laura Bailey. That's her next. We lived in Colorado for a few years, and
Mhm.
2 different conventions in Colorado. She got to meet Troy Baker one year, who does Joel. Then she got to meet Ashley Johnson the following year, who is Ellie. And Ashley Johnson was there as part of the Critical Role team.
Yes.
They were
Yeah.
all there, and she waited in line. And then Ashley Johnson saw her tattoo and literally jumped over her table and said, "Can I hug your leg?"
Oh
And
my
like literally the
God.
picture of Ashley Johnson hugging Savannah's leg next to her
It's
Ellie
so
tattoo, and it
cool.
was like,
That is so cool.
she still talks about it to this day. Like, it's so funny. Ashley
Oh
Johnson
my
was more excited about the tattoo, I think. I mean, we were probably equally excited because I know how excited Savannah was. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, they were so super. Ashley was so super wonderful, and they got the pictures together, so it was great.
Man, maybe we can request that Motor City bring Troy and Ashley and some of those other people, some of those Last of Us people from the game. And the people from the show, once the show drops, they're eventually going to show up. The people from the behind the scenes and from the game, maybe
Right.
we can get them to be guests somewhere at some point too. Because Ashley Johnson, I think, besides what you guys have said, I don't think I've ever seen her at a convention before. Troy Baker, I've never seen at a convention before.
Ashley has really bad social anxiety, and so she does not do that a lot.
Oh.
I think the original lineup for C2E2 in April of 2020, their last and only appearance altogether, she was not going to come. And then I think they convinced her right last minute to be there so they could have everyone, including her fiance, Brian W. Foster. Like, they had everybody there. They had their live show that night, which I was really happy to be in attendance at. Sarah, you did so good. And yeah, she was not ready to go. I think they had to kind of it was kind of a pulling teeth moment, if you will. But no, she's got some bad social anxiety.
I absolutely get that, because one of the main reasons why I kind of really fought to go to conventions, not really fought, but I'm like, hey, we should do this. And it became more and more of a thing for us, is because I fought through some social anxiety, a lot of social anxiety for a really long time, until I'm kind of where I'm at now. And it's still not great. There's still a lot of
Yeah.
times where it's like I bounce and leave and go outside for 20, 30 minutes
Yeah.
just to kind of get some distance, because there's so much to uptake or intake and process with that many people there and that many different things to
Yeah.
see. It gets overwhelming really fast.
It does. It does. And again, you're always welcome to like hang behind our booth if it makes a difference at all, like just to be out of a crowd, but it can get really overwhelming. I remember being at C2E2 and you literally you feel like a sheep just being like herded because the traffic moves at such a pace. You can't stop at a booth if you want to look at the booth. You are literally with this like jelly group of people just like walking and moving, and you can barely get anywhere. I can't imagine San Diego. But
Yeah.
you know.
And I speaking of that being stuck like that, and then if you're, but it's not like this at Motor City, but there's some conventions where you're stuck like that moving, and all of a sudden it comes to an abrupt halt, and you're like, what is going on here? And it's just like rush traffic. You look ahead, somebody's there taking pictures in the middle of the aisle, and it's like, I love your cosplay as well, but there's a designated zone for that over there, and that's never been an issue at Motor City. I'll say that. The 501st group, and they kind of they all utilize that space back there really well, and you can go visit them a lot of times, and then they break off in groups and pairs and do walks, and it's perfect. I just don't know how Motor City just seems to do it so well, but then like C2E2, the aisles were as small as between you guys and like the break area for the artist. That's where you guys had that, but then it branched out after that break area. That was how wide it is for every C2E2 aisle, and they always kind of get jammed up.
Yeah, it's only about like 10 feet. It's not that big. And then you get somebody with a, just a massive cosplay trying to walk through there, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
The promoters of Motor City have learned, over the years that they need to have the open spaces, they need to have the wide aisles, they need to have space for people to be able to walk through, and it's evolved for sure, but it's definitely gotten to this point, and they know to do it, and they just make sure it's the square footage they have to pay for the convention center. They pay for more of the convention center to be able to do it and spread everybody out more.
Wow.
Well, so they might make less money. Yeah, they might make less money, but they do right by all of us, by doing that.
And it brings people back.
Exactly.
It's certainly paying off, and I can see that. I can see Motor City probably being one of, if not, you remember how San Diego over the years has been known as like the biggest cosplay convention on the West Coast. I could see Motor City pushing the limits, becoming the biggest cosplay convention on the East Coast area. Even though they're not directly on the East Coast, I could see it being one of the premier cosplay cons to be at year in and year out. I can't think
of the Midwest.
Yeah, Midwest for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just think East Coast always for some reason. But, when besides San Diego, I can't think of a lot of other conventions that are known for being cosplay destinations, and Motor City is really turning into one.
I know New York is really big.
Is it?
New York is huge. I think bigger than C2E2. So I always, when I'm explaining this to people that don't know about comic conventions, I explain that like C2E2 is the San Diego of the Midwest, and New York is the San Diego of the East Coast.
Okay.
In my opinion, I don't know if that's true, but that's what but based on reputation, based on what I've seen from other vendors that have been there. I almost got to be there with Nickelodeon the year that I did their drawing for them. I was hoping it would have happened. But I was in their Viacom building instead. But they, it seems massive. It seems absolutely massive.
It sounds like there's a lot of experience being gained, and Dubba Low, I know you weren't out on the floor a lot, but I have discovered something this year that I had not seen in years past, and I wanted to know if you guys kind of picked up on this at all. Generally, when you go to a convention and a comic book exhibitor is out there, or a vendor, they pretty much put up all of the wall books and leave them on the wall, and then they got some bins to dig through. It's not often that people bring like back stock or things that are hidden underneath the tables that people don't have access to. So I found something new this year. And I mean, Dubba Low, I'm a huge buyer of Dr. Aphra, Ahsoka Tano, some of our favorite household collection pieces for the PC. So I'm always on the look. And this is a dry oasis. There's not even an oasis. It's just a dry desert of not enough Ahsoka Tano or Dr. Aphra stuff where we're at in West Michigan. So I was definitely on the hunt. And then I saw one booth, Darth Vader 4, second appearance of Dr. Aphra, $25. Man, if that thing's near mint, And I'm like, you know what? Just see it, just buy it or something like that. It ended up being in like near mint plus really, really good condition. And I'm like, hey, I'm looking at this. I'm like, hey, do you have any more? Because it's her second appearance. In my opinion, it's undervalued. If the first appearance is going for what it is going for, the second appearance is extremely undervalued right now. I mean, I was paying con prices, but I mean, that second appearance is $5, $10, $15 book, depending on what LCS you're at and what area of the country you're at. Nope, that's all we brought with us. We don't have more available anywhere else. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, it never hurts to ask. The next day, there's another copy. $25. No, it was $20. It got marked down, probably due to condition.
Same vendor?
Same vendor.
Okay.
And I'm like, huh. All right. I walk up. I'm like, hey, can I see that? And he's like, yeah, here you go. I look at it. I'm like, yeah, here's your $20. Walked away. Day 3. Another copy. So what the point that I'm making, the thing that I've discovered, this is not the only vendor that did this either. I'm not talking just this book. They are reserving stock now. I'm finding them. Like I've been to conventions and see people put like 40 copies of Moon Knight up. There was one year at Grand Rapids Comic Con, somebody put 40 copies of Moon Knight #1 and just put them all up there for $10 a piece. This was years ago at Grand Rapids Comic Con. But it seems like as the cons become more experienced, the people attending the cons become more experienced, the vendors are getting more experienced now as well. And people aren't just waiting till Sunday anymore to find deals and buy bundles. People are going through and just wiping people out of stuff that they're looking for on Fridays, on Saturdays, so I'm starting to see a lot smarter vendor out there reserve stock and adjust prices accordingly, like on the fly in the moment.
Well, what I can tell you is, so similar to what your experience, I had multiple copies of things. And the reason that I didn't put mine all out there is simply space. Before I went to the show, I made a grid, planned out what I was going to do, and had everything laid out what I was going to, made a little grid wall and like kind of planned it. And then when I got to the show, I lost like so much space because nothing worked fit like I was planning because my racks were too big and things like that. So I had to adjust when I got there. I had boxes of things. I shouldn't say this, but like I couldn't put out things, and I left stuff where I couldn't even put it out. I couldn't even have it on the show floor. Didn't have room. And there was books that I had multiple copies of. So I put one out, and then if it sold, I would put another one out because I just couldn't put all that stuff on my wall. And if I try to cram too many things on my wall, you can't see it, and it's not a good presentation. I'm all about the beautiful presentation. I have to make it look good. Otherwise, I don't feel good about the way my booth looks, right? And
but you're also, as a vendor, you're not going to like stack a comic book next to a comic book. You're going to do that little bit of that window slide to kind of make your space as efficient as possible, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, there were vendors that were doing just that, putting one book out and saying, nope, that's all we got. And then the next day doing the same thing. It's like, hey, okay, I get it. I get it.
Interesting. Like, I don't know what, I mean, I don't care. If you want to come and buy all 3 copies of the book I have, I'll sell them all to you. I don't care. Like, why wouldn't you want to sell to some? Like, I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. I just wouldn't display them all only because of space reasons.
Yeah, I think vendors are becoming more savvy from like me, like Aphra. Like I said, Aphra and Ahsoka Town. I'll steamroll through that stuff for the PC, just make sure, because I put that stuff on the back burner for too long, and now I'm fighting price hikes to build that personal collection for those characters. Whereas I think vendors are getting a little bit more savvy and kind of being on the eye for the quick people who are looking to do a quick flip off of them.
Yeah, but you said the guy sold it cheaper the next day.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was condition or what, but
yeah, that doesn't make sense to me, because if you're going to be more savvy, you would sell it for more the next day, or like along that line. Because if you're trying to be savvy, sell it for more the next day. If you're not, then why not sell it to the guy who is looking for this one thing? If you want to buy 3 copies of the second appearance of Dr. Aphra, hey, I got this one and this one too. Which one do you want? Well, I'll take them all. Here, I'll give you a deal on all 3.
Yeah, and there could be it could be human error on my part, and my tags could have gotten mixed up, because like a lot of the vendors, they take post-it notes and kind of clip them in half and write prices on them, and those kind of get flip-flop between issues. There could be an issue on my end too, and I could have gotten my prices flip-flopped. But then like there was another vendor, and I don't have his card in front of me, Bill, Marco, Tales from the Flip Side, Dark Side, Tales from the Dark Side podcast. Marco introduced me to Bill like a year ago, and I know Bill's booth when I see it. And he wasn't at Motor City this past fall, but he was there this weekend, and he was one of the few vendors that brought a ton of modern Star Wars stuff and just modern stuff overall. A lot of Miles Morales, a lot of Star Wars, a lot of great variety. Where you and him and a couple other vendors did, but there's a lot of other vendors that kind of stuck with the standard or status quo. Bill, I was able to go, and I saw 5 copies of the first appearance of Dr. Aphra. I saw 5 or 6 copies of her first solo title. Like a ton of great stuff to dig through. I'm glad that Motor City had the variety. I guess this is kind of just beating around the bush to say that I think the vendors all did an extremely awesome job. But there was, just kind of this, if you fell within this range that people are willing to spend, you had an excellent weekend, much like what you guys experienced. And then sometimes on the opposite side of those areas, people had a little bit slower weekend than they anticipated.
Yeah, like you said before, it's the variety. I had to bring a variety of everything to be able to cater to what people were looking for. I mean, I saw there was a booth that had multiple copies of Hulk 181 in a slab. I don't know how he did, but like, it doesn't make sense to me to have and use your space to have such a limited number of, show so many of like one book, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if you want to show off what you have, great, but like putting on like everything different. I had things that were $10 in my booth. I had things that were $5 in my booth, and I had things that were a couple $1,000s in my booth, and everything in between, right? And you have to be able to. Little kids were stopping at my booth, seasoned collectors were stopping at my booth, and I was able to sell to everybody in between. And that's what you have to do, and the whole show has to be like that. And the show did a really good job of having so many different things. And even in Artist Alley, I was able to walk, like I said, just like one time to be able to get over there. But I did a quick zip through, and you were talking about people with traditional art, talking about people like Beth. You were talking. There's crafters there, and there's like one woman there who sells bandanas for your dogs. Her name
I saw that one.
Yeah, Doggy Dana. Her name is Diana, and she literally has little bandanas, and they have like cute little sayings on them, and about they were like Harry Potter based or Loki based, and they had little sayings for your dog. She had all different sizes, and that's all she sells. And I think that's an amazing person to have there, because whoever has a dog and anybody's at a Comic-Con is going to at least stop and check that out and see maybe that's what they want.
Yeah, tons of amazing variety from the Artist Alley aspect all the way into the vendors, like you said, the upper echelon vendors, all the way down to the vendors, the craft vendors that had a number of different varieties of. Man, I wish I would have found that dog. I got 2 dachshunds here that would have looked gorgeous in those scarves.
Savannah, send it to our Instagram. I'll send it to you.
Okay, that's cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Peter was disappointed with MC3 last year. This year was terrific. Great deals on Bronze and Silver Age. I agree with Peter wholeheartedly. Last year prices seemed really high, and this year I went to the convention. I only brought 2 little folios, thinking I'm not going to buy that much. Of course, I want some stuff from Source Point Press. I want a couple of little things here or there. I ended up filling almost an entire short box and not having anywhere to put stuff because the deals were so awesome. And I think Peter might agree with us. I feel like Dubba Low, you might agree as well. I feel like there were more comic book vendors there this year than there has been in the last, I think, 2 shows.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. There was a lot of, even just around me, just up and down my aisle. There was a toy guy next to me, but the other way, all I saw was comic vendors, and they had a little bit of other things, but so many comics and way different than previous years. They were focusing on other things before. I mean, you had your mystery box guys and you had the T-shirt guys, but way more comic vendors for sure.
Yeah, I've gone into conventions in the past and seen entire alleys or rows all the way down of just T-shirt guys and mystery box guys. This year seemed to be
no offense to those guys. That's great. I mean, but that's not what I'm looking for when I go to a show.
Yeah, and it just seemed like this year they were all kind of in one area, and it opened all up into some vendors and comic books. And I feel like generally they kind of like some conventions in the past kind of overutilize the t-shirts, towers and towers of t-shirt, and then you feel almost segregated and blocked off from the rest of the floor. Whereas Motor City, I feel like did a perfect job setting these guys up right as people walked in, and then I feel like provided a wall of privacy for that entire corner of people sitting, chilling out, and relaxing, but then being able to look up and view all of the wares of that vendor. I think that was set up excellently.
That was really smart. You're right. I didn't think about that, but that was such a good right at the beginning. That made a lot of sense.
I hope they plan it like that, and I'm not just like
right. Maybe they did. Yeah. No, that.
Yeah, or just randomly work out like that. The comic universe made that work. But yeah, there were still booths that I didn't get to see because I was so busy at other booths in other areas, and it felt like vendors had to compete for traffic, had to compete for buyers this year.
It's the attention. I mean, people like will walk by so fast. You have to have at least something to catch their eye, right? And so that's why having that clean display makes all the difference. You know, if there's a booth that's a mess, you're just gonna keep on going because you're not gonna. If at least one thing doesn't catch your eye, you're not gonna stop.
Yep.
And you have to like have the variety, and you have to have the clean presentation for have somebody stop. And that's why having those little figures on the boards made a lot of people stop. You know, with, oh, what is that? What is on there? And then all of a sudden, oh, there's a GI Joe figure on there, or there's a Batman figure on there, and that made people stop for me. So that's what worked really, really well for me. So,
and this year we ran into a vendor that's like, you know what, it's time. We're probably going to see more of this in time too, but he's like, it's time, guys. It's just, I need to dial it back. I kind of think I need to consider getting ready to retire or whatever. He took, I don't know, like 12 of the boxes that are full of comics that he would sell for $20 a pop and put $5 on everything.
Wow. I wish I would
like dropped 12 short boxes out there. That's one of the booths that I sat there and pulled a ton of Dr. Aphra stuff out of. I mean, back issues of Dr. Aphra that aren't key should be cover price anyways, in my opinion. And they were marked at 20, but because Dr. Aphra is a hot character, but now they're back to cover price. I'm like, yoink, 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 yoink. I completed probably 40% of the run that I didn't have is back here now. So I can sit down and I'll read it digitally too. Don't get me wrong, but reading it in hand, paper, issue to issue is still kind of where I'm at. So
I'd much rather read a book like that than read it digitally. I'll do it if I have to digitally, but I'd much rather read it.
Yeah, I'll try to read a run in paper, in person, in hand, and then have it digitally if I'm traveling or on vacation or something like that. So we might see more vendors like that in time where, you know, they're not going to severely discount their Hulk 181s or anything like that. But I mean, if they are sitting on basements full of or storage units full of those $5, $10, $15, $20 books, they could start just liquidating stuff. And I just happen to be at the right place at the right time. Ryan, Obi the Gray, if he's still here, and Marco yoinked me aside and said, Andy, have you looked through him yet? And I'm like, no, I know him. I buy stuff from him occasionally. He's a super great guy, but a lot of the stuff that he wants, it's kind of like, I'm not quite there at his price point. They're like, he put $5 on everything. And I said, see ya. I was there for a solid hour digging through bins and, shared some good stories with them from Grand Rapids Comic Con and some other places. This is actually a really good time to segue to what would be next, which is technically the end of the show because I can't believe we are already well over an hour.
Oh, wow.
And you guys have graciously given us your time. So what we'll do is we'll segue into the last picture of the night. And that last picture of the night is Beth's completed Venom piece that is going to make you drop your jaw just like Venom.
Wow. That was a commission for somebody?
No, this was last year. I wanted to just boost my inventory, and so to inspire me to do that, I started one picture a week. And I themed each month so that we could kind of have something to look forward to. I had sponsors for each month that donated free stuff that I would give away to viewers that were watching. Excuse me. And our November month was themed web slingers. So I did Spider-Gwen, I did Spider-Man, I did Venom and Carnage, but I only did an hour of a live drawing to start these. So I had, maybe his tongue done before I started. Well, tongue and a little bit of his eye done before I started this at Planet Comic-Con a couple weeks ago. And then I got maybe through his like collarbone and a little bit of his chest done at Planet, and then I brought it to this one, and we were like, let's finish it by Sunday. So he is about 98% of the percent done. I just need to clean him up a little bit, and then that will be a print within the next month.
Here, let me pull it up this way. It'll look a lot better.
So sorry, Andy.
Go
So
ahead.
what for that particular drawing, in case anybody that hasn't seen you do stuff before, what do you use to do that? What medium is that?
I use sidewalk chalk. All my stuff is made with sidewalk chalk. Thank you, Dubba Low. Yes, all of my stuff is done with sidewalk chalk. I want to use something. I think it's fun for people to recognize that it's probably a medium they've used in the past. They just don't realize it. It's a great medium for me. It's really simple. It's very easily workable. Yeah, it's just a super fun thing, and I think he turned out really good. I think this might become one of my favorites. It might become one of my favorites.
I mean, the detail in the web, all the little, like the white that you have, like going all around him, but even on his chest and around, it's just so, it just brings out all the other colors. It looks so beautiful. Such a good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely, and I'm not even the biggest Venom fan, but I know that there are Ryan Helsep, if he's still watching here, is a massive, massive Venom fan, and hopefully he was in at the beginning when he shared this. He immediately came to mind to me when we were talking about this at the show and tonight, and then I immediately went to the thought of, there's no reason that this should not be a store exclusive that a Venom collector would pick up at this, a standard exclusive virgin variant, trade dress variant, you name it. Oh my god, foil this thing out too. Like
Rhinoverse, you mean?
Yeah, Rhinoverse.
Yeah.
Ryan Helsep from Rhinoverse is a massive Venom fan. Like, he has every Venom cover that's ever printed, minus like a 4 or 5 ghost books. And I was kind of hoping, I'm dragging my feet, hoping that he'll pop in the chat here. If he hasn't,
I'm sure he'd love this in a foil.
Yeah. This is just one of those pieces where it's like, I immediately thought of Drew from Wanted Comics, and I'm like, I was gonna send Drew a picture, and then I'm like, hold on. Let me formulate my thought processes here, and then let me wind down for the week, because I don't know what process happens when an artist's piece of work gets picked up for a cover. So don't let me start overselling Beth before I really know what's happening here.
Yeah.
There he is.
There
Someone
is.
say Venom.
Hi, Ryan. I hope you like it.
But let's see if I can. These overlays are convenient and show a lot of detail. Unfortunately, though, I hate covering somebody up.
Oh, it's
when
fine.
We're talking about it. But
you're fine.
I immediately thought of Rhinoverse Ryan when we brought that up, and I'm like, there's a ton of Venom collectors out there that love to have their own little portion of this, because the pieces that you make are sometimes 6 foot by 7 foot or 6 foot by 4 foot. They're pieces, and they have a shelf life, don't they?
Yes. This is always the most common question. It used to be, did you draw that? That was the most common question. And then we now get, how do you seal it? How do you make sure that it doesn't smudge or whatever? And we've tested about 70 different sealants. I would love to see those. We've tested about 70 different sealants, and we have one that works about 95% of the way. We've tested it on 2 of our prints, or our originals, I should say, and I could take my hand and I can swipe it across the picture and nothing will get ruined, but you will have a little bit of residue that comes off on your hand. And so if somebody was serious about purchasing something like that, we would take it home, we would seal it, and we would send it back or deliver it. And we would still recommend putting, a piece of plexiglass, or just making sure that little hands and waggy tails don't get up next to it. But yes, if somebody wanted to take that home, we could definitely figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and for Ryan's question there, what was that Venom? We'll go over that here and again a little bit. It's that piece that Beth did live at Motor City, and there it is. I think this was Friday near the end of the day.
Probably. I also, you sent me that picture. You put it on Instagram, and I saw it. And I love how I rarely get, almost all photos of me from the con are of my backside, right? Because I'm working on this picture. But I love that that's a photo of me stepping back, and like I do this head tilt thing where, especially if there's a great curve to the picture. So from Venom's like navel to his head, there's this beautiful curve that happens. And so I'm literally looking at it like this, trying to figure out like the angle of things. And I just love how you caught that.
I was actually Molly and Kyle were kind of like staring at me. I was like, I don't want to make this look really creepy, but I was waiting for the opportune moment. Because what happened is, from the photography standpoint of, as I was thinking, as you step back, your head is right at where your artwork kind of stops and the white space really begins. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. She's showing us everything that she's worked on up to this point. And that's exactly where I was when I took that picture. Was because at the time when you were up there actually working on it, you had actually kind of taking up more of the shoulder space and the areas that we wouldn't have been able to see that. There's another one. There's another really good one that I got to find as we continue to kind of feel free to hop in at any point, guys.
That's good. Do you have a picture of your booth, Dubba Low?
I was looking for it. I took a little video to send to my niece in Florida, but I didn't actually take any pictures. And I messaged my sister today, and she didn't either. We took a couple of, I wish I did, but I didn't take. Normally I do, but that Friday 12 o'clock time came up so fast that all of a sudden we were setting up and customers were there, and we never got a chance to do it. I really wish I did.
I think as a vendor, though, that's like one of my favorite things to look at. I just did a talk at a high school, and I always show them what my most current vendor booth setup looks like. And I was like, well, before it looked like this, it looked like this. And I show the very first one where we had absolutely nothing to sell. And it's just, it's a fun timeline to see how you evolve over the years. Yeah.
I have a lot of pictures of old booths, but definitely didn't do one this time. I'm going to try to see if I can chop the video or take some screenshots from the video that I sent her, but I didn't have a chance to do it before tonight. But if I do, I'll try to post them on IG.
Nice.
It's buried in all of the other content that I have recorded, but I took a good 20 to 30 second video of your booth. And
awesome.
I have a plan when it comes to conventions, and I only had half of that completed. It was just kind of like your booth and some of the other vendors and bets and some of the walkthrough that I was able to get, because at some point, social anxiety and everything, I became overloaded, and I was like, I need to go shut down. And then I never got back into content creation mode because I went into buying mode and it went crazy. But hey, come on, mama. Yes, absolutely. We're dropping that Etsy link for the Chalk Girl there.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Love how you did that Venom. There's the Venom fan saying how he loves you did that Venom.
Thanks.
And Andy, apparently I just bought a print for somebody. There you go. That's perfect. Happy birthday for probably Ryan. Awesome stuff. In tail end of the show here, we've kind of gone over the rest of Beth's art, but what I want to do real quick is showcase Beth's website live while we're on.
Thank you.
And no, Amazon
Beth,
killed me there.
I know you were busy. Did you get a chance to buy anything at the show?
I got away for a quick moment on Friday to go visit Robbie Damon. It was on the most recent, or he's in the campaign 3 of Critical Role.
Oh, nice.
And so he and Felicia Day are the only 2 celebrities that have been at conventions since I have gotten into Critical Role. And so I have one of my big prints, and I asked them to sign it, even though they weren't in the campaign. I still say like, hey, this is the only thing I have that I've done, but I would love it if you could sign it. So I got away to visit Robbie, and that was amazing. He was so gracious with his time and his words and everything. We played rollies, which was really cool.
I don't know what that is, but that's awesome.
It's basically you both roll. It's like War when you're playing a card game.
Gotcha.
War is just whoever gets the higher, he won. But no. Yeah. I wish I had that power to manipulate the dice that way. No, he was great like that, and I did not get a chance to go see any other. I think it was just on the way in and on the way out that I got to see the other artists in my line at Artist Alley, but I didn't get a chance to walk. That's okay. It happens. That's kind of what I expect from one of these cons. And sometimes I do get a chance. Now that we're doing the one drawing over 3 days, I do get that chance a little bit more than I would if I was doing one a day. But
actually take a break.
No, I didn't get to buy anything, but that's okay.
I would ask Andy, but he bought a short box, so I don't know if he has time for all
that. We bought a couple of pieces in the past for friends that are being shipped out. We haven't picked up our own quite yet because I think what I want to do is I have this grandiose idea of if the connections ever become made that she does a exclusive, like a store exclusive cover for a book, that maybe I'd get a really big print of that, but we'll see kind of where that ships gets steered and what the content is about and what the material.
Or maybe a con exclusive.
Oh my God, I'm glad you brought that up. As we continue to put Beth's website on hold for just a minute, Source Point Press had a great con exclusive, Monstrous. That was really good. This is one of the things that I don't quite understand about Motor City Comic Con, where other cons, people book it, and they sell out of con exclusives within the first 20, 30 minutes. Motor City has con exclusives as well for all the same great books that a lot of other conventions have, but people don't seek out the con exclusives at Motor City for quite some reason. I'm not sure. Source Point Press, I picked one up. There was another one I don't have a picture of, but there was a Superman book that you were telling me about, and you showed me the cover. And I'll remember I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but almost quote for quote, Dubba Low was like, Beth could have done this way better.
Oh my God.
It's the truth. Like, we were just looking at it and it's like, yeah, it was all right. It was Superman.
One day.
Mm-hmm.
Just need to get the right people to see it.
That's and I'm not quite sure how those connections are made about where Motor City chooses their artists for convention covers. Maybe some people look at your medium and think that it doesn't fit into comic book covers. It does. You can use any medium.
I can manipulate it to fit. It's not, Photoshop is a wonderful product.
Well, not just that, but if you can digitally create comic book covers, you can use any medium to create a comic book cover. Look at the Sandman stuff out of Vertigo. Those weren't all just art pieces. I think if I remember correctly, the original art that was utilized for those Sandman covers were the hodgepodge things all glued together.
Dave McKeon stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was all just random 3D pieces and things.
Yeah.
So, well, I know, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I know that one of my favorite Marvel characters is Echo. And a big chunk of her thing was all watercolor and
David
like
Mack,
the same hodgepodge. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't even know who did it, but it was all watercolor. And then yes, the hodgepodge.
Yeah, he is known for his watercolor painting. He has a very distinct style, and you can see him whenever you see a piece. Most of the time, oh, David Mack did that, or was that David Mack? Yeah.
Yeah, that's David Mack's got a quite distinct style that's very phenomenal. Before I trail off on another tangent, we've got to figure out that con exclusive on how that works, because it's kind of interesting, that dynamic.
I'm gonna dig into that a little bit too, and I'll see if I can find out stuff for you.
Yeah, I've asked about like the badges and stuff that have the art on them. I know that I've inquired about that for when I'm applying in certain things, but I never really hear back, or they've already got somebody that does it. So I wonder if they ask like this weekend, they'll find somebody and be like, hey, would you want to do next year's thing? So I don't know how fast they kind of take care of that, but.
Well, one thing I do know about Motor City is that they do have a new show director that was recently put in place. So I don't know how it's going to work moving forward. Yeah. So we can definitely, I can definitely poke around and find out some things, and I'll touch base with both of you.
Yeah, that's something that's definitely going to be fun going forward in the future, trying to create those avenues or those conversations. But for anybody that hasn't checked out Beth's website yet, All of the links are up here for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Everything's up here. The Etsy link, all right here, ready to go, where you get to see all of her artwork. And you guys haven't even, for anybody here that hasn't seen her website, you haven't even scratched the surface yet on some of the amazing pieces that she's done. Like this Michael Rourke piece, he was actually there with her and got a picture on her Instagram page.
Yandu.
Yep,
Yeah.
the Yandu piece. So much great content here, and like I said, all you got to do is just head right on over to Instagram, and let's see if we can find. This is still my favorite picture of the husband supporting the wife,
so good,
and her adventures. And
I love that photo.
where is it? There is. So obviously, this is the one that we were introduced. This is the piece that introduced us to you, as Skeff and I were at a convention walking around and saw this piece transplanted into a quilt. And that quilt I picked up for Sarah for a late Mother's Day present, if I remember correctly. Was it Mother's Day? Or no, it was her late birthday present.
Yeah, their link is right on the bottom of this page. If you see it, it says so quiltable. Keep going down, mouse down, all the way. Nope, just your mouse. Yeah, right where it says liked by, underneath the heart and the. I love how I'm pointing to it on my screen, like you can see that.
There it is.
But yeah, they have exclusive rights to use our pictures in their stuff, and we've been partnering with them for quite a while. And they are just killing it. Every single time they bring out something new. I don't know how active they are on this particular Instagram, but they get some really cool fabrics, some really cool stuff. They're going to be at with me at the next con that I'm at in a couple weeks at Indiana PopCon. I love that one. That was one of the favorites that actually I contacted them about. I was like, hey, let's partner up. But they're going to be with me. Tori and Jason, they just do a fabulous job, and they always have new ideas, like always. So yeah, they do a great job.
I think they're a little more active on their Facebook page, than Instagram, but
you can see that stuff. Like, so that Jack Harkness is mine and the Mandalorian is mine, but they do a great job. Heck yeah.
Let's see if I can get back really quick. Yeah, that was like we said, that piece, and I picked that up for Sarah as a late birthday present, and she absolutely fell in love with that. And if I remember correctly, we did a whole kind of piece on that as well not too long ago, and it's probably lost in the feed right now. But back to the website. Everybody stop by, check that out. Follow her on Instagram, follow her on Facebook, follow her everywhere. But then real quick, while we're talking about that, and we are over on Instagram, please take a moment to look up. This one's really easy. Just type DUBB, and Dubba Low 101 will be one of the first people that pops up. Follow Dubba O on Instagram to see what he's got going on next. And Mood Man, are you going to do another convention after this experience?
Yeah, I'm planning probably not till October. I'll do little one-day shows along the way around locally. But I'm planning on being at Motor City in October. I haven't left the state yet to do anything. I've only been in Michigan, but I was very happy with the result with what happened here last weekend, so I want to do it again.
I see you guys doing all of that work. I'm like, that is awesome. That'd be really fun to experience. And then I'm like, yeah, I could never stay in one place for more than 5 minutes on an entire convention weekend for me personally, though.
You wouldn't be able to shop. You would not. You would totally miss out on the opportunity to buy things, and that's just difficult. Much more like it's hard to not be able to go dig through boxes and look at stuff. You're muted.
You're muted.
Yep, and it takes a lot of discipline, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why you guys kind of get that opportunity at the very beginning before the doors open to converse and hang out and do a lot of things as dealers and vendors and artists. But I can't thank you guys enough. We'll go around the horn one last time real quick of where people can find you, what you guys have coming up next. What are your, like Beth, I know you kind of talked about your next show coming up in a couple weeks here, but Dubba Low, now that this kind of experience is underneath your belt, are you going to take a solid chill pill, or are you going to go hard to the paint?
I'm going to do, like I said, a couple little shows. July 16th, I'll be at, there's a little Great Lakes show. It's in Clinton Township. It's a one-day show. They put on a pretty fantastic. They run a few shows a year, and then I'm actually on the road tomorrow. The wife bought me tickets for Christmas to go see Neil Gaiman. So I am going to see Neil Gaiman sit on a stage and talk to me and read stories, and I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this for 5 months. So he's in Cleveland tomorrow. So we're driving to Cleveland, and we're going to go see him. It all happened like the same week, right? The Motor City show, Neil Gaiman. So that's how everything works. So we're going tomorrow. We're going to leave tomorrow afternoon. He's talking tomorrow night, and I'm going to spend the night there and then come back on Wednesday. But so yeah, I'm just resting. Like I didn't do anything today. And then definitely going to go to bed early tonight so we can get on the road so we can go see some of Ohio. So super excited to go see Neil Gaiman. He's my favorite writer in the history of the world.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Good for
so
you.
excited.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. Best wife ever.
Oh yeah, best wife ever for sure. So good.
It's
She knows.
amazing.
She knows.
That's awesome, man. I look forward to either seeing a couple of photos or kind of hearing how that goes for you, man, because it's going to be
sure I will.
Over the moon for you, I bet.
I'm excited.
Beth, you mentioned your next show is in a couple of weeks, or
yeah, first weekend of June is Indie PopCon, and then after that, not until July, we've got the Fan Expo in Chicago, which is in Rosemont. So we'll be at that one, and for that we, well, actually, I don't know if I can say anything yet. So sorry, teaser.
Don't say anything you can't say just yet.
Yes. But we'll be at that one for sure.
Indie PopCon, I'm going to look forward to that. Maybe this is kind of a weird situation for us where we get into June/July and it becomes really like a blackout scenario for us where it's that time of year where for both of our careers, we are pretty much not available, or when we are available, it's like family kind of camping trips. So we'll see. Yeah. I'm hoping to make some one-day visits or one-day stops. Like Indie PopCon, I don't think is too far.
Okay.
Dubba Low, the next one you're at Clinton Township is not far. I should be able to make some one-day things. Skeff and I aren't too far away from each other. We found a love for these one-day trips out to conventions where we find a ton of great deals and meet a ton of great people. So I'm sure we're going to be doing stuff like that. But right now, the next major convention that Sarah and I are planning on is C2E2 in August. And August is not far away already.
No, it's not.
So we'll do that in August. I know that the tough part about Motor City announcing the second one in October, Baltimore Comic-Con is in October as well. So they're going to have some competition for the month of October, and Baltimore's besides New York and maybe one other, Baltimore's like the biggest like con for comic books, to the point where Sarah even announced that she desperately wants to go this year along with me, because the last 2 years, if you guys have seen me and the content that happens here, this past year wasn't going to go. The day of, I call Sarah and I'm like, I'm really getting some FOMO about this. She's like, well, your bag is half packed, so come on home, grab your bags and leave. And that's kind of how that happened.
Baltimore has always been one of the best shows, like anywhere, for comic books. The promoter, his name is Mark Nathanson, and he's always been about comic books. He was a longtime dealer, and he focuses on not having like other things there except for comic books. I don't know if it's changed over the years, but that was always his focus, was just comics.
Super heavy comic books, very heavy comic books, but also one of the best artist alleys in the nation, in our opinion. Awesome. Yeah, that's where I met Steve Messenger Art this past year, and Steve does phenomenal work as well. Very new, kind of into the artist alley within the last couple of seasons, my understanding. But Baltimore has been one of the biggest. It's almost as big as C2E2, but I think the quality there is with better aisles, better alleys to walk through, and I think they focus more on the artist than C2E2 does. Whereas everybody wants to be at C2E2 because it's the biggest convention there with the most foot traffic. Whereas I think they do a better job taking care of artists at Baltimore. But yeah, so you guys know where to find me. Now you guys know where to find Dubba Low. You guys know where to find Beth again. You guys click the link, hit the thumbs up or hit the down button. I mean, some people do that too. And just stay tuned for more content. We had a solid week off leading up to Motor City to get recharged, get ready for that. And then now now we need to find a way to recharge again now that everybody's home and unpacked and wore out and getting ready for other things. And yeah, it's time to go to bed. Right, guys?
Definitely.
Yeah. Well,
Close. Well, I have to watch Better Call Saul, and then I can go to bed.
Yep. Some people are going to go back to work. Apparently, some other people are going to unwind, and the rest of us are going to go to bed. So you all know how I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to go peace out. I'm going to go pinkies out. I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side for the next one. But remember the most important part all day, every week. You are enough. Stay classy, San Diego. No, that's not how that goes.
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes.
Excuse me while I change. The roller boogie has made me sweaty. Yeah, sweaty. I love gold.